These are the 3 Asian secrets that took me from almost failing 8th grade to getting the highest grades in the class, and all this while studying less than an hour a week. Listen, I was in your spot too, getting pissed at the Asian kid who barely studied and he gets a 100, when I'd study 4 hours and only get an 88 on the test. But it turns out that was the Asian kid's first secret, to not study at all. I had a calculus test once and the teacher said there were 3 topics on the test, and I realized that I was horrible at one of them. So I went home and I practiced for hours and hours. I did every practice question I'd find online, and the next morning I went back to school with like the biggest ego anyone could. Like my balls were dropping out of my pants. That's how much ego I had. And so I sat down to take the test and there was only one question. One. On that entire topic on the test. I could barely get through the rest of the test because I didn't study for any of it. And it turns out she had a number for how much each topic was on the test, and one topic accounted for over 30 questions in the test. The second question had 10 questions, and the third, the one I studied for, only had 1. And that's where I learned that what you work on is way more important than how hard you work. But how do you figure out what to study, and how do you actually do this properly? Let's say you had a physics exam in 1 week. What would you do if you only had 2 hours to study each day? You're not gonna sit there like those Instagram girls.
Oh, let me color code my notes and make it all aesthetic and get beautiful titles and hearts in the corner.
Like, no, you're gonna sit there. Let me do some practice tests. Let me do some practice questions and revise notes. So here's an example. AP Physics is the hardest AP exam in all of high school, and you only need a 53% to get a 5, which is the highest score. And so on the official website, it tells you the exact percentage weighting of every unit on the test. So if you simply spent 2 hours each day studying for those 3 units that mattered and added up to a 53%, you would pass with a 4 or 5. So imagine if you hadn't studied those and put all your time into all these other units that didn't even matter. When your time gets limited, you realize that 99% of your studying is wasted. So how do you find the 20% of concepts that actually matter? Well, there are 2 types of subjects in school: objective and subjective. Objective subjects are those where the teacher can't influence the answer. So like in every classroom, everywhere on earth, 1 + 1 will equal 2. No teacher can change that. But for like English, an essay in Guatemala is probably different from an essay in India, which is probably different from one in America. They'd each be graded completely differently because each of the teachers grade different things. So you have to study these differently. For objective subjects like math, physics, chemistry, any sciences, just go on Khan Academy and grind everything. So if you have to memorize terms like in biology or history, the best thing you can do is go on Quizlet and make your own. For subjective classes like English and history, you have to treat it differently. In my English class, I got a 90 on an essay that I thought I wrote well. So I went up to the teacher and I was like, why did I get a 90 and not 100? She said the word implements had been used by so many other students that I had to be sophisticated. And so I searched up a different word for implements, put it in my next essay, and I got 6 points higher. So the first Asian secret is to just study the right stuff. But how do Asians have such laser focus? Because I'd start doing an assignment, then go on my phone to check my messages, then remember I have to study, then search up SpongeBob lore, and then it would just spiral downwards from there. So how do I go from the attention span of a goldfish to studying 2 hours at once? Just one trick. Right before studying, I'd take my phone, power it off all the way, and place it downstairs. Simply by doing that, I was able to take my focus from 5 minutes to 20 minutes. And so I thought to myself, what else is distracting me? I used to click off the tab and go to YouTube a lot, so I got a YouTube blocker that had a password so I couldn't touch it at all. This took my time from 20 minutes to over an hour. And this is because the easiest way to change your behavior is to change your environment. If you wanted to eat less chocolate, instead of using discipline to try and avoid it, what if you just didn't buy it in the first place? And so there's infinite ways to make it easier to study. I set multiple alarms on my phone to remind me to study. And when I start, I'd put a timer right in front of me when I was working, so that whenever I clicked off the tab, I'd look down at the time and be like, okay, I still got 45 minutes. Let me just finish. I also removed all notifications so I couldn't get distracted. Closed off all windows so cars wouldn't bother me. Closed doors so that there was no noise. I wore noise canceling headphones. And everyone is different. So when you sit down and study, you have to ask yourself, what do I feel like doing more than studying right now? And how can I make it harder to do that thing? Then fix it right away. And this is a part of the second Asian secret, which is to make studying a habit. And by making it easier to study, you followed one technique to make it a habit. There's 3 other ways you can stay focused every single day. The first way is to make it more obvious. I wanted to study the SAT because I had a test coming up, but I always procrastinated because I realized that the entire SAT book wasn't even visible to me in my room. So instead, I took that fat boy and I made it extremely visible to myself, placing it in the middle of my desk. And just by doing that, I established a cue to start working. You have to make the work obvious to get it done. If it's hidden in your bag or on your computer, you'll have a harder time remembering it. And this is why my room looks like a science experiment. My supplements are right in front of my bed, so I take them every morning. My mouth tape is right beside my bed, so I can tape my mouth at night. Chapstick, water, all these are placed to make it easier and more obvious for me, so I never forget to do them. And so now you know to make it more obvious and easier, but how do you get the motivation to start studying? Asian students usually keep the motivation to study because their parents just watching every move, every test, every single day. But you don't need this insane motivation to get started. You could just say, oh, you want to go to Harvard, so you need good grades. Or maybe you just want to show those Indian, Asian immigrants like who the boss is, you know? Having a good reason or multiple good reasons to continue studying will get you much more motivated to continue. But you also need to make studying satisfying, because if you don't, you'll never turn it into a habit. When I started working out, I'd do a whole workout, breaking and destroying my muscles, but went home and felt horrible. Eventually, I had no reason to continue working out because it was never a behavior I'd reinforced in my mind. But then I started writing my progress down on a piece of paper. So every time I went to the gym, I check off this paper to mark my progress in the day. Now, every time I go to my workout, I'm excited to check off this box and make more progress every day. So I started challenging myself every time, like, can I study 7 days in a row, 20 days in a row, 2 hours each day? I'll tally it up on a paper and keep it up right beside my table to track everything I did. If you track your studying, you'll be much more consistent and actually work harder than you did before. So what is the final step to actually become that Asian kid who walks in and says he doesn't study at all? And so remember when I asked you what you would do if you only had 2 hours to study? When you do that, you don't just find the right things to work on, you use Parkinson's law. I remember I was watching some SpongeBob lore and then I got a notification from my friend. It was 11 p.m. I had 59 minutes. I had so much laser focus. You can see the laser leaving my eyes and burning a hole in the table. And after that 59 minutes of flow state, I had no clue what I did, how the time passed. I was able to submit on time. And the next morning, everyone was talking about the homework and how it took them 4 hours to figure out the problems, while I was sitting there with a 94, taking less than an hour to finish everything. What I used right there was called Parkinson's law, which is basically whatever time you give to your work is the amount of time you'll take to finish it. So like, for example, if you had a month to finish an essay, it'll take you a month to finish it. But if you had 1 day to finish an essay, it'll take 1 day to finish it. The point is to set timelines for yourself. Like literally right now, I'm gonna finish this essay in 3 hours. I'm going to finish my homework in 20 minutes, and it should sound insane to you. So now you can supercharge this even more to save more time from studying. What I do in class is right when our homework gets assigned, which is usually in the last 15 minutes, I finish as much as I can before class ends. If I only give myself 15 minutes to finish, I'll probably finish in 15 minutes and not have to do anything when I get home, which is why I barely study every week. But there's one bonus Asian secret that I use to do even better than the Asian kid, because I wanted to destroy him, because I realized that the stuff you do outside of studying helps you study better as well. The problem with Asian try-hard study kids is that they usually sacrifice health and relationships to get to that point of smartness. But I took all that extra time I had by implementing everything in this video and simply improved myself. I started working out, sleeping right, and eating right, and my focus improved, which meant I could work harder, which meant I'd study faster. To eat better, all I did was eat 150 grams of protein before I ate anything else. Then I could eat whatever I want. And personally, I think this is the best diet because it's simple, anyone can follow it, and protein keeps you full for a long time, helps build muscle. I also started going to sleep much earlier because I didn't have to worry about homework at night. So around 9:30 I'd be in bed so I could get 9 hours of sleep, wake up at 6:30. And what this did was gave me infinite amounts of energy throughout the day, so I had even more focus on top of what I had. And that was my entire plan to destroy this Asian kid. And in the end, I was able to do it and more. If you got one sub worth of knowledge today, I'd appreciate if you subscribe. Later.